We never got so much nice results, but more importantly, I'm also very proud about what we delivered as a company because, as you know, we've been refocusing the teams. In the end, our number one defense is people. I am both delighted by the absolute number because we've got record results. I'll detail that later on, but we never got so much nice results, I would say. But more importantly, I'm also very proud about what we delivered as a company because, as you know, we've been refocusing the teams, and it proves that this reorganization, what we're expecting, what we promised, is getting delivered. And this is really, for us, an element of pride, an element of comfort in the future, and it means that this thing works. So delighted about that. But let's talk a little bit about the numbers. I just told you that they are record because it's the first time ever that we are above the 1 billion EBITDA, and this is way more than the 800 that we did back in 2019. So not only it's a great number, but it also proves how much the business model has turned itself over time. I mean, so COVID is most definitely behind us, but this is much more than that. This is also the fact that this business model does work. The organization which is in place does deliver. If you go and try to understand how we delivered 1 billion, I mean, the top line was gorgeous. We have a RevPAR, a revenue per available room of 23%. But you know, the one thing that I would like to highlight, which is not in direct read in the account and is super critical, is that the strategy of development also worked. We discussed about focusing about value much more than numbers. Good news about that EBITDA is that it did translate into significant amount of cash. There is a ratio that we look at, which is called cash conversion, which is how much of an EBITDA turns into cash. That ratio was at 59%, which is above what we did in history. And that means that we've been able, for the first time since 2019, to return significant amount of money to shareholders. We provided back in June 2023 a lot of numbers on what the business model would be in the next 5 years. That was the Capital Market Day, and we provided data analysis of many drivers. The RevPAR, the net unit growth, the margin and franchise, the revenue growth, the cash conversion, the EBITDA profitability. And on all of those KPIs, we are better than those KPIs. And so, you know, we've done a great job at reorganizing, we've done a great job at planning, and we're exactly where we wanted to be, and in fact better than what we wanted to be. So that's on, I would say, the financial numbers. I wouldn't be complete if I was not to talk about the extra financial numbers, because this is also super critical. The statistic is that about 2/3 of the travelers are now looking some way, somehow at ESG criteria. And on this one, I think again, we had a great year. And I think we distinguish ourselves versus the competition. And we're building up, in fact, a system by which we measure, and hence we can act on what we measure. I think there is many things that we can still go and improve. I would quote to you two of them. In the COVID, we learned the hard way that variable cost matters. And so one of the things that we've been pushing, which is something which is ongoing in the organization and takes time, is variabilization of the cost. Translates, for example, in moving all of our ecosystem on the cloud, because then you are in a transactional way into which you pay for what you consume. And it's not only for cost purposes, it's also for quality, it's also for security, it's also for easiness, it's also for cycle time. It brings you a lot of advantages in terms of operational performance. I think that's one big element into which we're investing. The other one, you know, we are in the business into which we need to bring revenue, good revenue to the hotels. In order to do that, yield management is paramount. So we were talking about investment. One of the things that the new organization help us do is focus on brands, right? Because fundamentally, you've got the lifestyle and luxury, which is a brand-led organization, but you have on the other side the premium, midscale, and economy, which by nature is much more a regional business, i.e. a business which is managed by geography, but onto which the fact that we are now much more narrow and focused-minded as being pushing us to rethink what we do. So for example, we've been really working on brand equity, and brand equity means that we've been revising the standards associated with those brands, reducing them, making them more understandable. We reduce, for example, the standard of Novotel by 70%, so not a small number. And then what it means is that people, instead of trying to do everything, just do what is important, and that they do well. So that's an example. And we also want to ensure that the hotel that we've got in the network are at the level of the brand and those brand standards. And so we are much more strict. Now we are more focused on the hotel that remain in the network, and we take tough decisions in order to ensure that the network is at the high quality. And there is more to follow. You will see in 2024, we're going to do much more on Ibis, Novotel, Pullman. You'll see much more coming through in the coming weeks, but that's probably another interview. It's the obvious thing. This business is based on people. This is a people business. This is why we're successful. This is why the digital disruption will always have a limit and will never touch us fully. And so we are already doing extremely well there. That's being the best defense against any disruption. We talk about, digital investment like I just did. In the end, a number one defense is people. We also want to make sure that we develop communities. Talking about, management of diversity and inclusion, we have a very, very laser focus on that subject because we believe this is a significant element of value creation in the medium term. Today, we are at 42% of our management team who are women, and this number is growing year after year.